If you've ever wondered how institutions bury a story without technically hiding it, this is what it looks like. Because the US Justice Department just released more than 13,000 Epstein-related files, and instead of clarity, what we got was a political food fight, a photo dump, and enough redactions to make the whole thing feel like a magic trick. Welcome to Why It's Trending Daily. I'm Hank, and this is where I break down the stories that everyone is suddenly Googling, and I explain to you why they matter. So here's the immediate reveal. The Justice Department released thousands of photographs and investigative documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein, the financier and convicted sex offender who died in jail in 2019 while under federal indictment for sex trafficking minors. Now, this release was rushed under pressure from Congress to comply with a law signed by President Trump last month. And the whole reason that people have been waiting for this is the obvious. The public thinks the files could show who Epstein was connected to, how he operated, and whether powerful people were protected. So what did this first batch actually do? Well, according to reporting, it produced no major revelations. And that's not an opinion, that's the most important fact here. The files include thousands of photos and investigative documents, but they add little to what the public already understood about Epstein's conduct, and they don't offer much new insight into his connections to wealthy and powerful people who associated with him. Now, here's where things turn. These documents, weren't all from one clean investigation. They're pulled from multiple eras here. An initial inquiry opened by police in Palm Beach in 2005, then files from federal prosecutors in Florida that ended in a 2008 plea deal, and then the 2019 Manhattan case that never resolved because Epstein died in jail. So you're not getting one cohesive truth dump. You're getting a multi-decade paper trail selectively released with big parts completely blocked out. And the redactions, well, they are not subtle. The materials include phone records, travel logs, and what looks like case files and interviews involving victims, but many documents are heavily redacted. One file, described as 119 pages titled Grand Jury New York, is entirely blacked out. So yes, they released a huge volume of material, but a lot of it is functionally unreadable in the places that matter most. And that creates the most dangerous outcome here. People walk away feeling like the government released the files while also feeling like they learned absolutely nothing. The combination doesn't exactly calm conspiracies. In fact, you could say it fuels them. Now let's talk about why Bill Clinton is suddenly trending inside all of this, all right? Because one of the standout elements of the release wasn't a new revelation about Epstein's network. It was the prominence of Clinton in the photos. And the photos often come with little to no context. One image depicts Clinton reclining in a hot tub with a person whose face is blacked out. In many of the photos of Clinton, he's the only person whose identity can be clearly discerned. So you're staring at images that feel like evidence, but you're not being given enough surrounding info to know what you're actually looking at. Great. And that's exactly why this whole story continues to blow up. Because photos are emotional, photos are shareable, photos become the headlines. And in this drop, Clinton's photos were positioned like a giant spotlight. Now, the reporting says that by design or by chance, a lot of the photographs included were of Clinton, and the White House tried to make a political hay out of it. A White House spokeswoman posted above the hot tub image, "We did see something, just not what you wanted." And Clinton's spokesperson responded with the key counter-accusation that the release is being used to scapegoat and distract from what might come next. Now, add this. Clinton has said he cut ties with Epstein around 2005. And reporting also states that Clinton has never been formally accused of wrongdoing in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. But the political reality here is you don't need an accusation for something to trend. You need a photo and a narrative, and that's what we got. And once a photo becomes the narrative, nuance tends to get steamrolled. Now, here's the other half of the controversy. And this is why the story has institutional credibility written all over it. In this first batch, Trump's name is mentioned rarely. Most of the photos of Trump that appeared in this first drop were already public, and written references to Trump show up in things like Epstein's address book and flight logs and message books, versions of which are already public. So the release lands in this kind of weird place right now. There's a huge volume. There are very heavy redactions. Clinton's imagery is very prominent. Trump is referenced, but not heavily in this first batch, and a promise of more files is in the coming weeks. And of course, there's a promise of more files that will be coming in the next couple of weeks, which brings us to the pressure point here, the timeline. You see, officials acknowledged more documents will come in the coming weeks, and lawmakers criticized the department, arguing the partial release fails to meet the obligations. So we're in a moment where the public is being told, here's the first batch, you'll get more later, but that's also the exact structure that makes people think, okay, what are you holding back, and more importantly, why? And it doesn't exactly help that the first batch is being interpreted as politically framed, because it doesn't just release information, it releases ammunition. Now let's hit one more part that people might have missed, the celebrity orbit here. The files show how Epstein attracted famous people into his orbit, from Michael Jackson and Mick Jagger to Walter Cronkite, and the documents don't suggest that these celebrities knew about or were involved in his illegal activity. But it's still a reminder, Epstein wasn't operating on the fringe here. He was operating inside elite social ecosystems where proximity to power is currency. And when you combine that with heavy redactions, you get the exact cocktail that destroys trust. Because the public can see the outlines of the network, but it can't see the full accounting. So what's the actual story today? It's not the files revealed everything, I wish. It's that a massive release can still function like message control. Release just enough to claim transparency, redact just enough to control the risk, highlight imagery that shapes public attention, and then just delay the rest and let the country kind of fight over the framing of everything. Now this matters because you're being asked, again, to trust institutions to police the powerful while those same institutions decide what you get to see, when you get to see it, and in what form. And when file releases look curated, public trust doesn't rise. In fact, it collapses. Because if truth arrives like campaign content, then accountability becomes theater, and you're the audience paying with your attention. I'm Hank, here to explain the chaos so you don't have to. If you want more of this type of content, you know what to do.